Hello everyone, today is 4th of January, Saturday, so happy weekend to you all. Now it's 10 past 9 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment. Although before I start, let me notice that quite often, at least several times a week, I have second updates, like yesterday, for example, on my Patreon page and also a Boosty page. And if you're looking for more news from Russia, more commentary, or if you like my work and want to support in long terms, you're more than welcome to join our communities on Patreon and a Boosty. That will be, of course, very significant help for this project. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And dear friends, if today if day goes actively news-wise, of course I will have second update today also on Patreon and Boosty. That's been said, let's go through some news now, and because it's Saturday, I will try to make this update as short as possible. Let's see if I will manage it. And first news is about work of Russian air defense systems. RIA Novosti reported, based on defense ministry, that overnight and the early hours of this morning, Russian air defense systems on duty intercepted 16 Ukrainian drones that was launched to strike deep into Russian territory, obviously with assistance of NATO member states, because we all know that all these long-range strikes with drones or missiles cannot be conducted by Kiev regime without flight path and targeting data that is provided by NATO member states, namely US and UK. At this point, there are no reports about casualties on the ground or more or less significant damage. If any update on that, of course, I will share additional information on my Telegram channel and Twitter X page, or in the next updates. Drones were intercepted over the Bryansk, Smolensk, Belgorod, Pskov, Leningrad regions. Also, interesting news. I spoke about this topic yesterday in the second update on Patreon, but I think it's worth our attention on bigger channels. TASS news agency is reporting about statements of Vasily Nebezhny, official representative or a permanent representative of Russian Federation in the UN, who stated during the interview with Russian 24 that for this moment, all their so-called signals from Trump's team in regards to Ukrainian crisis, how this crisis should be resolved and so on, are not really of any interest of Russia, because Moscow didn't see in these signals anything that will resolve issue seriously and forever. And he went to say that, quite often there is talks about freezing of the conflict, and Russian President Vladimir Putin was very clear, and many other officials also should be noticed, that freezing of the conflict is unacceptable for Russia, because Moscow is looking for ending of the hostilities, permanent ending of the hostilities, which requires very significant work, right? And all the reasons that provoke this conflict to be addressed, right? Also, in regards to Ukrainian conflict, there are ideas that are connected with Trump's team, like deployment of European troops or troops of EU member states on line of contact as a sort of peacekeepers. And Nebezhny once again stated that this is also unacceptable. And after all, we should all. It is interesting, that whenever Western propaganda is writing about these topics, they are always trying to highlight that European troops should be deployed. European troops, EU member states, these ones and that ones might deploy troops and stuff. Western propaganda always ignores objective reality, that these countries that they are talking about and troops of these countries are actually NATO troops, right? These countries are NATO member states, and Russia was very clear that no NATO troops will be ever acceptable for Russia on territory of the so-called Ukraine. I can add from myself that I guess in final resolution of this conflict, Moscow may take, accept some compromises, and for example, Western Ukraine, for example, can be the area of negotiations. If NATO troops eventually will end up there, I guess Moscow will have no too much issues with that, but not rest of the Ukraine, right? It's unacceptable. So therefore, yet again, this signal is definitely not really of interest for Russia. And another topic that is also connected with Trump's team and their approach to the resolution, their vision of the resolution of this conflict, if they are serious, and I doubt that they are serious really, is delaying Ukraine's accession to NATO for like 15 or 20 years, which is also a non-starter. And I was, very clear on that, right? Even before Russian officials said anything about that. Whenever I see first time these reports about these ideas that been discussed among Trump's team by Kellogg himself, Cat Kellogg, who supposed to be official representative of Trump's administration into Russia and Ukraine in regards to this conflict, I said straight away that this is not, all this stuff is non-starters, right? And the Russian officials then made quite a few statements and were very clear that no NATO troops will be acceptable, or Ukraine's accession to NATO will be acceptable now or ever, right? And so Nebezhnev basically reiterated everything that we already knew, although I guess he thought it was necessary to make these statements once again, because obviously whenever Russian high-ranking officials are making statements, their Western colleagues are listening, right? And they should know. They should know what Moscow's position is. And also he made these statements, I guess, because he also noticed, as I did, that nowadays Western ruling class, Western propaganda is creating new false narrative that somehow Kellogg's ideas are okay with Russia, which is complete false, by the way. It's fake stuff. Nothing that Kellogg says is acceptable, or nothing that is associated with Kellogg or his vision to resolve this conflict is seems like acceptable to Russia, right? And that's why I am saying, by the way, that we should not be too optimistic about Trump's administration and their further de-escalation and de-escalation afterwards, because I said already in previous updates that maybe Trump's team is playing game that once they are in office they will say, what, we come up with certain ideas, we offered a resolution, Moscow didn't accept it, and therefore we don't really have an option but to further intensify support of this greatest democracy in the universe that this Kiev regime is, right? According to them, according to Western propaganda at least, right? That's what is going to happen in my personal opinion. That's why I don't expect any de-escalation once Trump is in office. Exactly opposite most likely will happen, and Washington will continue to allocate another billions and billions, tens of billions actually, most likely, to support Ukrainian Nazis, fascists, and terrorists, and to prolong this conflict. And this process will not stop until Russia will finally destroy armed forces of the Kiev regime and the NATO mercenaries, right? And once everybody in this world will see that Kiev regime's forces are completely collapsed, then Western ruling class will start talk. Only then. But before, I don't think so, because as long as they have even slight hope that they might turn the tide by allocating more weapons and more money and sacrificing more residents of this so-called Ukraine, they will continue to do so. And after all, it is a very beneficial business for many decision makers in the West, right? Not just corrupt officials, but also influential clans that are behind military-industrial complex, right? And not just military-industrial complex. Ukraine has become our greatest money laundering scheme in history of humanity, right? Hundreds of billions of dollars were stolen from Western taxpayers and directed to the pockets of the corrupt officials and these multinational corporations. Am I wrong? But anyways, it is interesting, by the way. I wonder why Western ruling class, Western propaganda is pushing now this false narrative that's somehow Moscow is okay with the Kellogg's ideas, man. I mean, what is behind that? Because there is not even a single indicator that for Moscow, any ideas that I just spoke are acceptable. There is not a single indicator of that. Or that Moscow will change its mind. No, I don't think so. Anyways, let's continue, dear friends. And I just spoke about billions and billions that were, stolen from Western taxpayers, right? Through this Ukrainian scheme. Well, John Kirby, official representative of White House, made a statement that there are soon announcement to be made about additional military aid package for a Kiev regime. I guess another billion or two, maybe even more, will be stolen from U.S. taxpayers. But as long as U.S. citizens, majority of U.S. citizens are okay with this, then as I said, nothing will change. Western ruling class has a unique scheme operation in place, which allows them to, without any issues, enrich themselves for hundreds of billions, right? To take money from pockets of their ordinary people and put in their own pockets. And that's what they are doing 3 years now, right? Meanwhile, by the way, when it comes to using and abusing Ukraine, West is of course has no, Western ruling elites have no boundaries, obviously, and the now new crisis, sort of crisis, is emerging between Kiev regime and the West, because well, it seems like Western states want Kiev to take back all the Ukrainian refugees that are not beneficial for Western economies. Ones that are not working, basically, and then to be mobilized and sacrificed for the Western geopolitical agenda. Although, at the very same time, Western elites, leadership of a number of Western countries, wants maintain the slave labor that Ukrainians have become in the West, that are working, paying taxes, and are beneficial for the local economies. And Zelensky seems like he's not okay with that. He wants some share, I guess. He wants some money for this, right? And he went on to criticize Western states for that. Let's go through this news here. For example, Zelensky criticized EU's use of cheap labor from Ukraine. Well, this is new terminology, isn't it? Cheap labor. That's how they call slave labors now. And obviously, we all understand that Ukrainian refugees in the West are receiving much less money and are much less secure than locals, right? So some Western countries regard Ukrainian immigrants as a cheap labor, slave labor, actually. Vladimir Zelensky has said he claimed that they want to keep those who benefit their economies, but would like to send their unemployed back home. In an interview on Friday during Ukraine's telemarathon, Zelensky expressed frustration with what he described as a selective approach to Ukrainians in some Western countries. Let's be honest, end quote, by the way. Let's be honest, he says. There are many Ukrainians abroad. In some countries, they have been seen as a cheap labor force. And now they realize Ukrainians are often more skilled than their own citizens, he said. Zelensky went on to accuse the Western counterparts of trying to downplay the matter, adding that they want Ukraine to take back the unemployed, urging him to just tell them to return. Well, first of all, let's be real here. Who cares what Zelensky will say, right? These people run from Ukraine for a reason, right? They don't want to be forcibly mobilized and to get sacrificed, right? For this corrupt regime in Kiev or for Western geopolitical agenda. Is that not clear to anybody? And therefore, no matter how many times Zelensky will call these unemployed, let's say, Ukrainian refugees in Europe to come back and to, went to tranches, they're not going to come back, obviously. But Western states or EU member states, they will come up with some schemes, some formulas to justify deportation of these unemployed Ukrainians, right? They are already working on that, and I predicted that this would happen for a long time ago, isn't it? But when it comes to rest of the Ukrainians, I mean, as I said, they've been used as a cheap labor, slave labor. They are beneficial for their economies, and they want to keep them because, after all, one should keep in mind that we are talking about millions of Ukrainians, right? And if you take in account that EU economies, especially major ones, are undergoing serious crisis, the German economy is in recession, by the way, officially now, right? And German economy is a locomotive, right? Main economy in Europe, right? So of course, just imagine if millions of Ukrainians now left EU, right, went back to Ukraine and get sacrificed or whatever. I mean, Western elites don't care about they being sacrificed, but what they do care is that they're gonna lose significant this slave force, right, slave labor force, which will further intensify crisis in European economies. And that's what is happening. That's why they don't want to lose those people, but they are happy to send back unemployed ones, and then they to get sacrificed, right? And Zelensky understands this. It is all about economy, all about money, and I guess he's protesting because he wants some share of that. He wants money, by the way. Trump, for a reason, called him the greatest salesman ever, isn't it? Or at least in modern times, because he knows how to sell Ukraine and Ukrainians, and he's doing this quite effectively. I mean, he's one of the richest men in modern days, right? God knows how many billions he has, and his criminal inner circle. So interesting. Let's see how the situation develops. But in any case, it would be reasonable for Ukrainians in Europe, especially ones that are unemployed, to leave that territory and seek refuge somewhere else. Otherwise, one way or another, but they're gonna get sent back to Kiev controlled territory and then sacrificed. It just seems inevitable, right? Some more news, dear friends, when it comes to Ukraine. Prime Minister of Slovakia is threatening retaliation for Kiev regime sabotage. So Slovakia is preparing to take retaliatory measures against Kiev after it halted the transit of Russian gas through its territory EU countries on January 1st, according to Prime Minister Robert Fico, who slammed the move as an act of sabotage by Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky. Well, we are hearing quite often that Slovakia, Hungary, some other countries might retaliate against Kiev regime. Okay, just do it. Just do it. I mean, we heard statements. We understand these statements. It is time for action. And well, also interesting news that in Moldova, by the way, price of electricity doubled yesterday. And this is also, of course, connected with the transit of Russian gas through Ukraine, which is suspended now, and I guess suspended maybe even forever, who knows. And Moldovan authorities went in to double the price of electricity. That's what I call mess around Russia and find out. That's what it is, basically. Moldovan leadership was acting hostile, of course, under orders of their Western masters. They were, Sandu's regime was acting hostile towards Russia, continues to act provocatively, and it was obvious that at some point Moscow will say, you know what, we had enough of it. So just stay away from us now, and that's the result, by the way. That's the result. Moldavia, I don't think Moldavia will still exist as a republic on a political map in let's say 5 to 10 years time. Most likely Moldavia will be will undergo disintegration, and some parts will join Romania, other parts will join Russia, or might declare full independence, who knows. But Moldavia is not a survivor as a state, that's for sure. And I guess this crisis that this quasi-state is undergoing right now will only accelerate that process, right? But yet again, mess around with Russia and find out. That's what it is. And well, before I continue, dear friends, let me notice that this project, this media project from Russia, is completely subscriber funded. And if you like my work, if you like my channel, if you think I deserve to be in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with the donation through PayPal or Boosty platform, and you can see this Boosty platform on your screen right now. So you can donate through PayPal or Boosty, or you can support by subscribing to my Patreon page, by becoming a Patreon of this project. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And there you can see also crypto wallet if you are good with cryptocurrencies and stuff. That's been said, of course, many thanks to all the members of our community who supported and continues to support this project and my work. Without you, obviously, I would not be in this field of news and political commentary, and this project would shut down long time ago. So thank you very much. And dear friends, let's continue with this interesting news that yesterday, and many of you most likely are familiar with this news, that yesterday foreign ministers of Germany and France, Annalena Baerbock and Jean Noël, went to Damascus to meet with their all-inclusive gender fluid gay terrorists and their regime that the Western ruling class try hard to rebrand as some extremely woke, peaceful, liberal angels, right? And many people believed in that, right? But anyways, these people, Baerbock and Jean Noël, went to Damascus had a talk with that head of that terrorist regime, whatever his or her name is. I don't know how that terrorist identifies gender. I mean, maybe he is a she in reality. Who knows, man? But well, they went there, and somehow, I mean, some strange stuff happened. That gender fluid terrorist, Julani, I remember the nickname. So that gender fluid gay terrorist Julani didn't shake hand of Annalena Baerbock, which is not really, I mean, well, not that all inclusive, right? And everybody laughed at it, obviously. Everybody laughed at it. But to be honest, I would not even pay any attention to this news if this stupid individual, Baerbock, didn't speak about Russian bases there, and if official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, didn't comment on that. And so Baerbock went to say that Russian bases should be gone from Syria. And Maria Zakharova stated that, commented on that maybe Baerbock would say the same about US bases in Germany. I mean, maybe she should first care about her own country. I mean, and then, you know, some others, right? Would she dare, that Baerbock, would she dare to tell Washington to withdraw its bases? It's occupation bases. That's what those bases are, by the way, right? Would she dare to demand from Washington to withdraw its bases from Germany? I don't think so, isn't it? Because her bosses in Langley in CIA would be very upset if she does anything like that, right? So yes, Zakharova basically trolled Baerbock, and that's the only reason I'm actually paying attention to it, because I don't care about these voyages of Baerbock and Jean-Noël. They can go anywhere they want. Or who cares, man? They are not really people that make any real decisions, right? They're just puppets of the Western ruling class. That's all. When it comes to Russian bases in Syria, you know my take. I would prefer Russian bases to be gone from Syria. I want all Russian citizens to be evacuated safely, and then Russian bases to be removed also, and then Russia to just forget about the existence of that quasi-state. Russia did quite a lot to support people of Syria, right? Maybe some locals forget about that, and well, they will find out now. They will now find out. Okay, so Russia did quite a lot to help Syrians, but if they didn't want to defend themselves, right? If they did not fight for themselves, then well, why should Russia? So let them find out now how it is to live under the regime of that all-inclusive, gender fluid gay terrorists. They will find out. You know, maybe Russian bases will stay there, because after all, Turkey, and we all understand that Turkey is a main player now in Syria, right? And there might be some agreement in place between Moscow and Ankara that those Turkish-controlled terrorist groups will not act hostile against Russian militaries, Russian base, and in return, Russia will continue cooperation, economical cooperation with Turkey, cooperation in energy sector. But I think that's a mistake, by the way. I think that is a mistake. Or I think Russian bases should be withdrawn from Syria in safe manner. All Russians should be evacuated, and then I think Russia should cut diplomatic ties with Turkey. because Turkey is an enemy of Russia. Historical enemy of Russia, and will be historical enemy of Russia forever. And I'm not in support of these games if we don't know what is going on. We know what is going on, right? And I believe, by the way, if Russia cuts diplomatic and then economical or all ties with Turkey, just give it 5 to 10 years, by the way, and there will be no Turkey on the political map. That country would not survive that. You know, I said from the beginning that Turkey took the bite that it cannot swallow. Syria, they cannot digest that, right? Turkish economy is on brinks of practically collapse. And if Russia will stop cooperating with their Turkish companies in many fields, by the way, I mean, just Russian tourists bring 10 to 15 billions every year to Turkey, $1 billion, right? Russia is cooperating with Turkey in energy sector. Just cut it all, man. Ankara is dreaming about becoming an energy hub, right? In the region. Just kill that dream of those terrorists in Ankara. And Erdogan is a terrorist, right? Erdogan's regime is a terrorist regime. Let's be clear on that also. But yet again, obviously, this is my take on the situation, take of ordinary citizen here in Russia. Of course, leadership of the country, who knows what calculus they have, But my personal opinion is to, withdraw bases from Syria, evacuate all our people, and cut all the relationships with Turkey, man. Russia will survive that easy. Turkey will be, erased from the political map. I'm not against it. Absolutely. I believe a vast majority of Russians would not be against it, or vast majority of Georgians would not be against it, vast majority of Armenians would not be against it, vast majority of Greeks would not be against it. Vast majority of people in region would not be against her if Turkey is erased from the political map, because it is a historical mistake. And let's continue now. But Turkey is a historical mistake, by the way. Turkey should never exist as a state or empire that it was at the time. Meanwhile, by the way, Mike Johnson narrowly re-elected as a U.S. House Speaker. So U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson has been re-elected in a narrow party line vote. Johnson was elected after a pause in voting with multiple Republicans initially refusing to back him. Okay, this person is, I don't know, man, like a strange individual. It seems like this guy don't really has any principles or something. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not an expert in US politics, but from what I see, I mean, today he may make one statement, tomorrow something else. How, for God's sake, how you can change your stance on some principal issues like that? That's not normal, right? So therefore, maybe Trump wants someone like this in house, maybe, because he will do whatever he's told, I guess. But anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that Greenland's prime minister pushes for independence from Denmark. So Greenland's prime minister Mute Ejeder has renewed calls for independence from Denmark following US President-elect Donald Trump's reiterated interest in purchasing the Arctic island. In his New Year's address, Ejeder emphasized the need to remove the obstacles to cooperate, which we can describe as the shakeless of the colonial era, and move on, signaling potential referendum on independence. And then quote, by the way, also, Our cooperation with the other countries and our trade relations cannot continue to take place solely through Denmark. He said, works has already begun on creating a framework for Greenland as an independent state. So, by the way, as I said quite a few times before, if US deep state or if Western ruling class basically wants Greenland to be directly or indirectly controlled by the US, that's exactly what is going to happen, right? One way or another, but Denmark will lose control over their Greenland. And that's exactly what is going to happen. And the local prime minister is actually confirming my take on the situation, right? So in next 5 to 10 years, I guess Greenland will become US proxy. Not necessarily part of US, but US controlled territory, and Denmark will have no say in the matters of Greenland. That's how it is, by the way. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that New Delhi to commission 3 new warships in one day. That's quite a stuff to do, isn't it? A big success for Indian Navy. So Indian Navy is set to commission 3 major combat platforms, including 2 warships and a submarine on January 15, thus enhancing its operational capabilities and combat readiness in the Indian Ocean region. All 3 warships were built in Indian shipyards, according to their Navy. The ships, which will be inaugurated in Mumbai, India's financial hub and the key defense shipbuilding location, consists of their INS Nilgiri, the flagship of Project 17A, a series of 7 advanced stealth frigates, their INS Surat, the 4th and final destroyer of their Project 15B class, and their Wexher, the 6th and final Scorpion class submarine, constructed under India's Project 75, envisioned in 1997 to create a submarine fleet for the Indian Navy. So congrats, by the way, congratulations to Indian people, Indian Navy, with their for the increase of their defensive, let's say, capabilities. India is already major superpower in this world, economical, military, and maybe even if India is not at the level of, let's say, US and China for now, it will be. Just give it another 20, 30 years. India has a great future, by the way, undoubtedly. And so India is already, in my personal opinion, is a great superpower in this world. And whatever is, and further increase of influence and capabilities of India is actually, I think, good for regional security and good for a world. And finally, by the way, whatever is good for India is good for Russia also. So therefore, I see India as a strategic partner of Russia forever, and therefore I'm always happy whenever something positive is happening in regards to this great country. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that surprisingly, by the way, somewhat surprisingly, Germany is purchasing record volumes of Russian uranium. Quite interesting, isn't it? Germany itself is no longer operating with nuclear power stations, right? But France does, and it seems like France is buying Russian uranium through German companies. So Germany dramatically increased its uranium imports from Russia in 2024, bringing in 60.8 tons of which is a 70% jump from the previous year, according to a new report from Der Spiegel published on Friday. The findings are based on data from Lower Saxony's Ministry for Environment, Energy and Climate Protection. Uranium is being proceed at their advanced nuclear fuel facility in Lingen, which operates under French ownership, through Framatome, a division of the energy giant EDF. The plant is gearing up to manufacture specialized nuclear fuel cells for the Soviet-designed WWER reactors still running in Eastern Europe. These power plants have historically depended on Russian-made fuel cells. So French, relationships between Russia and France is on its lowest level for decades and decades. I guess since the Napoleonic wars, right? And therefore, obviously, Paris is trying to, come up with some disturbances for Russia whenever it can. And not surprisingly, French companies now trying to get into business of this Soviet or Russian designed nuclear reactors and supply European, Central and Eastern European countries with nuclear fuel. Okay, I mean, this is business, by the way. This is business, but they still buy uranium from Russia, which is quite interesting, isn't it? They still buy uranium from Russia. And by the way, when it comes to world market, no matter how hard French companies or US companies gonna try, they cannot beat Rosatom, Russian corporation that is definitely leader in this field of civilian nuclear energy, right? That's been said, dear friends, I will end this update on that interesting news. How long is this update? 42 minutes, 43. Okay, hopefully you will find the update informative, interesting, and useful. I was hoping to make this video short, like 25-30 minutes maybe, but I hope you'll like it. And if so, please don't forget to click that like button and leave some commentary. This is the only way we can at least try to influence algorithm to reach wider audience. And if you can share my videos or information about my channel with your friends in real life or on internet, that will be also helpful. And finally, as I already said, if you like my work, if you think I deserve to be in this field of news and political commentary, and I bring something of usefulness to this field and to community, then please consider to support this project and my work. All the links are on this video description box and the pinned comment. This is it for now. Once again, have a wonderful weekend and take care.